65-year-old Anoosheh Ashuri, a British-Iranian engineer who looked forward to a comfortable retirement with his family, until 2 years ago, when on a visit to his mother in Iran, he was arrested and thrown into prison. The Iranians say he's an Israeli spy. His family retort that he's a victim of Iran's diplomatic fallout with Britain. Boris Johnson met Iran's President Hassan Rouhani at the United Nations General Assembly in New York on Tuesday, and Mr. Ashuri's plight was, the Foreign Secretary confirmed this week, raised in the margins.
Today there are a range of UK dual nationals languishing in jail in Iran, typically arrested on spurious charges, denied due process, subject to mistreatment, contrary to the basic tenets of international human rights law. Iran's behaviour is unlawful, it is cruel, and it is totally unacceptable.
Ashuri is one of 4 British or dual national citizens languishing in Evin jail on dubious charges. They include Aras Amiri, a British council employee, anthropologist Camille Ahmadi, and the most prominent charity worker Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe. Her husband Richard Ratcliffe went on hunger strike in June to draw attention to her continuing plight, accusing the UK government of failing to do enough. Now Mr. Ashuri's family are speaking out too, launching a petition for his release. Well, earlier I sat down with Sherry Azadi and her daughter Elika Ashuri in their first TV interview since Anoosheh was imprisoned. I began by asking them what happened when he was arrested.
Well, he went back to Iran to visit his mother. It's a trip he's made many times, you know. And then one morning, he left the house to do some shopping. And when he was in the street, a car just pulled up to him. 4 men came out and they just asked him who he was. And when he confirmed it, they just bundled him into a car, put a hood on his head, and that was it. And he was taken to prison.
How did you hear about what had happened?
Well, originally we didn't know, actually. We weren't, because we didn't have proper contact with him for close to 5 months. And he later told me when they actually took him to prison and took his blood pressure, it was so high because I think he almost was on the verge of a heart attack because he had no idea what was happening to him.
Well, Iran alleges that he was spying for Israel. Why do you think that accusation might be levelled against him?
I honestly have no idea because he's the least political person in the world. He's never been interested in politics. He's not had any political affiliations. You know, he's not politically active. We've never travelled to Israel. We don't know anyone from Israel.
And do you feel that the Foreign Office has helped you enough? Have they been proactive enough?
We don't know what to do. They are, you know, we go to them for a solution, for something to be done. And what they say is that because he's a dual national and the Iranian government doesn't recognise dual nationality, then their hands are tied.
I mean, the government has said that this was addressed in the margins of the UN General Assembly this week. Does that reassure you?
I don't think so. I think there has been a lot of talk about what to do, and we're always assured that there are mentions of my dad's name and other cases similar to my dad's in higher places, but we don't think talks do much because we've had talks for a year, but...
You want action?
Yes.
What do you suspect is really at the heart of these allegations against him then?
Well, our suspicions and also the news that we've seen in the recent days is that the Iranian government is owed a sum of money from the British government, about 400 million, that was borrowed for, I think, guns and artillery.
Well, it was a, yes, yeah, it was a military,
They have blatantly, publicly said that they are willing to exchange prisoners for this sum of money.
Well, what do you want the British government to do?
We believe that the settlement of this debt will really do help the case of dual nationals, okay? And this debt it's something the British government owes to Iran. And it's a legal case that's been going on for 40 years. So maybe if they pay their debt, obviously, these cases will stop.
So you've been silent for 2 years.
Yes.
He's been in prison for 2 years. Why are you deciding to speak now?
Well, initially we were silent because we thought it would, anything we say here, any publicity would harm his case. They may retaliate, there may be repercussions for him. But about 3 weeks ago, the Iranian government actually decided to publicize the case. So one day out of the blue, there was a press conference by the judiciary, and they announced my husband as being an Israeli spy. And so they brought the fight into the open, as it were.
And how would you say he's being treated in prison now?
The ward where he's kept with a number of other dual nationals or mono-nationals or several foreigners who are all classed as security prisoners. So because their crimes, their alleged crimes are security related. They don't have access to fresh air a lot because they only have a tiny courtyard, which is for their use. They're not allowed to mingle with the other prisoners because they may corrupt them, they believe. They live in a room, a windowless room, with 15 other people. They're battling with rats, cockroaches, it's not nice. But the only saving grace in that particular prison is that he's with a lot of like-minded people.
And the toll that's taking on him?
He says, I have to make an effort to keep myself well.
You're feeling his lack?
We've always been extremely close, This is time we're losing. It can never be brought back. And he's not young, he's 65 years old. So, you always wonder how much time you have left together.
Actually, it can happen to absolutely anybody with a dual nationality. And we were saying that his really only crime was being born Iranian.
Yeah.